take marine debris, ropes and fishing line and turn them into usable products. The reason why I do what I do, I have been an environment education person for 25 years, and it's just ingrained in who I am to help people move along that path of protecting the planet, really. The best place to look for marine debris is on the high tide mark, and it's really easy to see here because it's where all the seaweed is. So you can see there's a couple of distinct strand lines of seaweed, and so that's where most of the small plastics are going to be if there's any washed up on this beach. Depends on, you know, the swell conditions that you might have had. So we had southerlies, so that's why I'm looking up in this corner, but we'll also look down the other end. So it just depends on where the swell and the wind has brought the marine debris. Most of the ropes and fishing line that we find make their way to my studio, and it's not necessarily just something that I've picked up. It might be the local Indigenous rangers. It just depends, you know, it just sort of turns up at my place, and then I'll wash it and clean it and usually dismantle it, so pull it apart and use single strands. But then once you sort of look into the middle, that's where all the treasure is. And it's really just the whole purpose behind Castaway Textiles for me is showcase the threats to our ocean and also highlight that something that might be considered waste is actually still a resource. So we have finite resources on our planet, so it's really important that we use what we can. So that one's this rope, same rope. When someone purchases one of my lampshades or a basket, they're taking home something functional, but they're also taking home the story. Anyone can go and buy a basket or a light shade from anywhere, but it's important for a lot of people to be able to buy that story as well. And having something like that in your home then creates conversation around those threats to the ocean. This big rope was 10 metres long, and this section here is only 1/8 of what its original size was. So it was a really big rope, a big ocean rope, would have been used on massive ships. I'd love to know the story before I found it, of where it had been and what it had done. But it was 10 metres long, full of sand and barnacles, and some friends let me know that it was over on Browley Island. So 5 of us went over to pick it up, and we shouldered it back because it was so heavy and full of sand, and then pulled it apart into long strands, which are 10 metres long. And then I process it and wash it and take it into single strands. And then I use those as individual strands, so from 720 strands down to 1 strand. And that's what these light shades are made with. Slip cast porcelain, hand carved. Lots of people who are in love with Browley Island have bought beautiful little lampshades. Yeah, so it's great. The story continues. Oh, perfect. The oyster farmers out on Bud Island on the Clyde Estuary, or Bundu, I've worked with them for many years monitoring the marine debris on Bud Island, and part of their sustainability project, if you like, is to give me their offcuts and the ropes that they're not using anymore, and so then I turn them into product.
So if we've got to trim them down just a touch, there's such a bit that is not really used for another job.
Yeah.
So you're the...
So I get them.
Perfect for the recycling.
Oh,
we've got about 4,000 oysters per basket in here.
Wow.
This lease in particular is our nursery lease, so it's in a pretty protected zone from big winds and wake chop. So we have our spat here, our really young oysters that come out from about 4 or 5 mil and are grown up in 2 different systems, one that's floating here called Flip Farm, and then another intertidal system over there that kind of mimics how an oyster grows, coming in and out of the water twice a day. I guess it's our heaviest duty rope that can take the brunt of 300 baskets, pulling on it with the big tides or big winds, but our leases are just that set distance, so if you need to trim that rope down, this beautiful rope, you're kind of going to waste. You can go that way, I'll go this way.
As a surfer and an ocean lover, it's a bit of a passion of mine to go out and do cleanups. And using my work through Castaway Textiles, I get to shine a bit of a light on some of the resources that we can use from those cleanups.